Hello and welcome to the video. So despite it being pretty much the end of winter here in the southern hemisphere, I wanted to at least make one more outfit for my fantasy winter wardrobe that I started a couple of months ago at the beginning of winter and have made one dress for. But today I wanted to make another one. It's more historical than fantasy, but it's still a bit fantastical to consider wearing this style of clothing in everyday life. So this is Butterick B5831. As with my last winter wardrobe, I want to make these wearable. So yes, it's fantastical, and yes, this is historical, but I want to make them wearable for me in everyday life. So with this one, while I adore the massive skirt and would love to wear it, it's not really practical. And also, as you will see, the fabric that I have is definitely not enough for this, but I'm hoping enough for my slightly adapted version. So basically, the top will be the same, but the skirt will probably be less full and also shorten it to knee length, just below knee length. Because I think this says 8 meters of fabric. Yeah, about 8 meters of fabric for this entire dress. I do not have 8 meters of fabric. I have this beautiful space fabric that I found in the op shop. There was 2 of them, but I only got the one, and they said approximately 4 meters each. And I didn't have a plan when I first got it. I just thought it was great, look at the space. And then thought, oh, actually, it's a nice lightweight cotton type fabric. It would really be perfect for this project. However, there's only 4 meters of it and it's quite narrow. So it's not even a really wide 4 meters. So I'm really hoping that I can make it out of this. And we're gonna try lay out my fabric, lay the pattern pieces on top of it, and hope that I can get away with it with this less fabric in the skirt plus shortened. You can see how narrow this is. Like, that's not a lot, and I have got to get a lot of pieces out of it. Okay, so I have cut out my bodice pieces, my sleeves, my cuffs, which should be all the main pieces that I need from this space fabric, except of course for the skirt, which is what I am figuring out now. And I think with what I have left, which is about 1.5 meters, 2 meters, I will divide however long this is into 3 and cut it into 3 panels, because the grain line should go that way. If I cut 3 panels, I can then attach and have enough circumference for a decent skirt, because this goes around my waist. Like, that will go around my waist, but it obviously does not flare much where I want all the flare, whereas this times 3 will hopefully give enough once gathered in. So I've got all my pieces cut out. So these are my lining pieces. Those are my actual pieces. I think I'm actually going to start with the lining because it's on the inside. And so while I sort of get the hang of this pattern and directions, and it's all French seams as well, which I haven't done for a while, so I think would be good to practice. So I'll do the inside that you won't see first, and then move on to all the outside stuff. Going to start off with the darts in this front bodice lining. Now working on my back piece, which so far has consisted of stay stitching the curved edge because that's on the bias and that'll stretch like crazy. Now I've got to attach the side back pieces with French seams. Now that I've got both seams done, I'm going to trim back this seam allowance and sew it again from this side, meaning everything's enclosed. Now that's trimmed, fold over, get it nice and neat on the end. You could iron this, but I'm lazy. And now I'm going to do another row along here. This is the wrong side, and the other side will be all nice and neat. Definitely not perfect, and the reason why is that I do the lining first. Don't know if you can really tell, but my second side, much better than my first attempt. Now I've got my back piece done and my front pieces with their darts in. Time to attach them at the shoulders and side seams. Also with French seams. So I now have a bodice lining. Now this actually gets boned. So not massively, but there's a bone in each dart. I believe there's a bone in the side seam and then one that just sits in the back. All my bones are in and secured, except for this center back one, which I made a little casing for, but this needs to be sort of stitched in. I might go downstairs, make a cup of tea, take this with me, and because that has to be done by hand. All my bones are in place, and I also did the little hem, which was a hand-stitched rolled hem on the front here, which means that my next step is to put the outer bodice together and then attach it to lining. Alright, I've now got my outer layer bodice piece all seamed together, and I've got all my little gathering threads in. Now I just need to gather them in to match my lining.
I don't think these instructions are correct. Or if they are, I'm not reading them correctly and I'm getting very confused. So I've been doing what it says, which is to pin the right side of the lining to the wrong side of the outer fabric. But even if you're doing it as sort of the more historical lining method where you do it wrong side to wrong side, catch stitch the edges all the way around, this is wrong. And if you're doing it in the more modern way where you would then put it right sides to right sides and stitch around but leave a gap and pull it all out, it's still wrong. And in nowhere in the instructions does it elaborate on this. It doesn't say to turn it inside out. It doesn't say to stitch around, catch stitch it in. Like, I'm very confused. And I think to make my life easy, I'm just going to do it right sides to right sides and then stitch most of it except that top bit which doesn't match anyway, so I can stitch most of the way around, then just sort of flip it up. So that's what I'm going to do, because otherwise I just don't see, because now how it is now, it's not going to work. You're going to have all this seaming against my skin, and that's not how it's supposed to go. If you have a lining, everything gets tucked in, right? Please, if I am wrong and reading this pattern wrong, let me know. So if I sew down the opening, along the bottom, up the opening, I can just flip it. Yeah, I could be doing this very wrong, but it makes sense to me, and we'll find out very shortly. Okay, we are making progress. Everything is joined on the inside, right sides out. Although I did figure out what they were going to do to finish all the edges, because there's piping. But I still don't understand why they wanted the wrong side of the facing against the body rather than the nice finished right side. I still don't understand that. But anyway, I've done it this way now, which so far is working out fine. I've just sort of pinned back the button facing so that I could check that it fit, and it does. So now I'm just going to go in and sort of stitch down on the inside. I have a bodice now. I need to make piping, and I didn't have any of this fabric left, well, not enough to make bias strips. So I have got a contrasting color to sort of match in with the purples and some piping cord, and I'm going to make some piping. I really like the way this purple looks with this. It's adding such a nice pop of color. And then now I need to trim the neckline and then fold this over and hand stitch down to finish those edges. And then the sleeves, I need the rest of the sleeve.
This is the cuff end of my sleeve, which I'm just going to gather down. Take my cuff. I'm going to spread these gathers out to meet the circumference of the cuff. I have 2 sleeves all completed at the bottom. This pattern has what they are calling a modesty sleeve, and as far as I can tell from the instructions, it just sits sort of there but inside this sleeve, so I'm not sure of its purpose. Modesty, can't show off the shoulders. I'm gonna put that bit together and try and put it in and hope I do it right, because I have a modesty sleeve. Sure. Okay, I have my modesty sleeve and my sleeve. Now I have to put them like this. Basically, it's like an upper sleeve cuff. I have one sleeve in. I wanted to try one and practice it, see if I could get it in first. Now I've got to do the other one. Two sleeves on a bodice. Yay! Okay, time for the skirt. Now, this is the original skirt. You can see how much volume there is in that. I don't know which way up my camera is. Is this up? That looks the right direction. My skirt is nothing as voluminous as that. That would be amazing, but not very wearable. And I want this to be wearable. And also, I had nowhere near enough fabric. So I have 3 rectangles and I'm going to basically stitch them all into a tube and then gather that tube down to the waist measurement of the dress or the bodice. My skirt seams are all together. This is the front, which has the opening. Now I just need to gather it down to bodice measurements. And the instructions call for crossgrain? Crossgrain. What do they call it? I'm nailing this. Grosgrain. It's such a weird word. Like, you read it and you don't think about it, but then you try to say it and I don't know, in my brain, it makes 0 sense. Anyway, not the point. I don't have any of that, but I looked through my stash and I have a whole lot of this, which, for all I know, this could be grosgrain ribbon. So it looks like this. I don't know what sort this is. I don't know what grosgrain is. That word, my goodness. but I'm going to use this.
Alright, all my gathering is done. It took approximately forever. But there's 3 skirt panels, and I did each panel separately so that if one of these strings breaks, I am not going to lose my mind trying to redo the entire length because it's very long. So now I just need to gather it all down and attach it to this ribbon, which will probably take me another forever. And now I have lots of tiny little gathers, and I need to sew every single one of these onto the ribbon. But first I think I'm going to cut the ribbon to the length of my bodice so I know how much I need to gather it down by. Now my skirt is all gathered down and it's looking pretty exciting. Now this ribbon gets turned up away from the pleats and attached to the bodice.
And somewhere along the way I measured wrong and my skirt is this much too short to fit my bodice, which is very annoying. So I've still got my thread somewhere. There it is. Got my gathering threads, although I did tie them all together in a knot so I wouldn't lose them, so that's going to be annoying to try and undo. To try and then loosen these off and tack on a bit extra cord to make up this distance. Okay, I had a stressful moment there because I could not get this knot undone too tight when I was thinking, oh my goodness, do I have to like snip that, re-stitch all this, regather it? But I managed to get this knot undone because I had knotted the 2 sides together, so it was a slightly thicker knot and I could get it undone, and I'm so excited by it. So now I can sort of ease out these gathers so that it fits to here, and then re-stitch the ribbon and then re-stitch it to here, and hopefully this time I get it the right length.
Everything is attached. I managed to extend the waistline. It actually extends a bit too far now, but I have left it because that'll be the underside once it's all buttoned up, so a little bit extra, not a big deal. And the last thing I have to do is add all the buttons to it. I'm going to try and use my sister's machine, which is a lot more modern than mine and has an automatic button function, which I do think my machine does. I just don't know how to do it, and I would need to Google and YouTube it, whereas my sister's machine has its manual and I can just look at it and there it is. Then it's done. Once all the buttons are in, it's done. Because I hemmed it last night after my waistband kerfuffle and I needed an easy win, so I just did a quick double roll hem on the machine. Nothing fancy. Okay, let's see if this works. So I've got the button foot. My button is in the back here for size reference. I feel like this would have been easier to do before it was boned and attached. Oh, okay, let's go for it. Moment of truth. I forgot to change the thread color. This was the one I was practicing with. I meant to put it in white. Oh no! How easy is it to take out buttons? Guess we're gonna find out. And there we go. 9 buttonholes in about 10 minutes. That was a lot quicker than if I had done them by hand, and also they're a whole lot neater. I am very bad at buttonholes. So now the scary part, and I got a seam in the middle of each buttonhole. It's always terrifying ripping apart something that you've spent hours working on. And now we gotta hope that the buttons actually fit through the holes. I did test this on the test strips, so they should, and they do. Yay. I have finished it, finally, just in time for spring. Yeah, totally didn't get it done in time for winter. So that's, whoops, next year?